Hello my friends, Paul here in the RoJoBe Music Workshop, and welcome to part 6 and what will currently be the final part of the Japanese Sanshin Headstock, or 10 as it is in Japanese, rebuild. Okay, so quick recap of everything I've done up until this stage. So I'd knocked the instrument over onto the floor. It landed on the headstock, which then subsequently exploded. And so it meant that I had to rebuild it. So I started by, I mean, the whole thing just, it was a previous repair, which I hadn't done as well as I should have done, to be honest. And that's part of the reason why it failed. So basically I put, you know, repair pieces in both sides of the headstock, either side of the slot in the middle, and I'd just done butt joints and it wasn't strong enough. So, you know, the repair failed, so I had to redo it. So I remade the side pieces with overlap over the edge as well, so that it was bigger and stronger. And so I got that done both sides and got them shaped and filed down to size so that they were thicker than the original ones. Then once I got all that done, I went around the whole thing with filler to fill in any little gaps and divots, and leveling up the front and the back of the headstock where they would slightly fractionally just dipped in the middle. And once I was happy with that, I then covered the whole thing in veneer, and that was a tricky job, but it actually turned out a lot better than I was expecting. About as good as I was hoping for, but better than I expected, to be honest. It turned out really nice. And then in the last episode, part 5, I was starting to make the holes for the tuning pegs. Quite a tricky process, especially with, you know, very little real estate to work with, and given the size of the tuning pegs as well, pretty big in comparison to the headstock itself. So it was quite a tricky job, but I got it done, but wasn't particularly happy with the angle of the two outer ones. They were a bit close together. I wanted them to be more like that. Oh, excuse me. So then off camera, I proceeded to try to, I actually plugged up the two middle holes and re-drilled them, because they were a little bit oversized actually. And then the top one, because the bottom one kind of angled down a bit, I was reasonably happy with that, but the top one was too straight. So I was trying to sort of, you know, angle the holes a little bit more to tilt the tuning peg up to give it a bit more angle, and I had a little problem. Okay, so I'm going to show you what's happened. So I'll show you this side first. So we've got the bigger hole in the middle, and then the two outer ones are a bit smaller, and then the opposite on the other side. However, while I was trying to work it, yeah, there's that piece in the middle there has broken away. So, you know, try and get you a bit of a close-up on that. So this middle piece here is just broken away. Now, I have to be honest, this is what I was afraid of happening, and it has happened. I mean, I did say that, you know, there was a chance that this would happen. And I've been using this wood that I have, which I've used for making guitar bodies, and it's I'm not sure what you'd actually call it, but you can see that it's, you know, different pieces of wood pressed together. actually this is double thickness. I've got 2 pieces glued together here, and it did seem pretty strong, but I had this kind of issue when I was making those guitar bodies, when I was, you know, making holes, cavities and things for, you know, controls and that kind of thing. Rather than the wood chipping out in tiny little pieces, big chunks would break away. Now I was able to get away with it with those because I could just glue it back in, and, you know, once the paint and lacquer had gone over everything, absolutely fine. But obviously for this, with such a thin piece of wood, that is, you know, that's it. It's done. It's finished. I mean, I can repair that, but what's the point? It's not going to be. It's going to be weaker than it was before, and that isn't even the weakest point of this. I mean, you see the distance between the 2 holes here, how much wood we've got there, and it's similar there. But if you look on this side, they're even smaller. They're very, very thin. So it's not strong enough. It's not going to work. And I did say in the previous episode that there was a chance that this could happen, and if it did, rather than trying to do this repair a 3rd time, because this is the 2nd time already, rather than trying to do this repair again, it's obviously not going to work. I'm going to have to build a completely new headstock for this from scratch. I mean, you know, when I first built this thing, it was all one piece of wood. It's all carved out of one piece of wood. And although everything was thin and narrow, it was strong enough. It was fine because it was all literally carved out of one single piece of wood. And when I first built these, I fitted them with viola tuning pegs, which are, you know, quite a bit smaller than these, let's be honest. And it was absolutely fine. But once I started to drill these holes out a little bit bigger, or ream them out to fit these ones, that's when I had the problem. That's when I had this starting to happen on the original headstock that was made out of one piece of wood. So when I started to ream the holes out bigger to fit these bigger tuning pegs, this is what happened. So that was what prompted me to rebuild the headstock by cutting these side pieces out and inserting new pieces one side at a time, which is what I did, using this wood. And although it does seem strong on the outside, it's not strong enough because of the way it's constructed. I mean, it is pretty good. I mean, it's fine for making, you know, big board things, but smaller objects it's not much good for. And you can see, you know, the way it's made, it's pieces of wood all sort of pressed together. Not nicely done, but it's just not strong. So like I said, I did think that this might happen, and it has happened. So as I said in the previous video, rather than trying to rebuild it again, it's not going to work. So I have to completely build a completely new headstock, and doing it the same way as original, carve it out of one solid piece of wood. So I do have this piece. Now, what you have to think about is that these pieces on the sides that I put in, they were this plane, if you like. Now, if I was to, so they'd be like that way. Now, if I was to make the new headstock out of this piece of wood, it wouldn't be that way, it would be that way, which technically should be stronger. It should be stronger, but, you know, this is round 2 and it's failed twice. So, you know, it's obviously, this wood is not strong enough. And I mean, like I said, because it's going to be on it's not on that plane, it will be on that plane, it should be stronger. But I cannot guarantee that. So I'm not going to use that wood, which is a shame because, you know, it's the grain matches, the color matches. I'm kind of tempted to try and do it, but the thing is, you know, I could get to this stage again and the same thing happens. Do I really want to do that and then have to do it all over again? No, not really. Now, I do have various scraps of wood. I don't have any of the original wood that I made this from. Actually, I might do. I'll have to search through, but I don't know. But I did find this piece of wood. I'm not sure what species it is. As you can see, it's obviously some kind of redwood. And I've used this for, I used to have quite a lot of this stuff, and I've used it for all sorts of things, and it does seem to be pretty strong. And it's lighter in weight than this, so, you know, that's probably better in some respects. So I may or may not make it out of this. I mean, you know, it's got paint on it, which I'll have to remove. But the problem with this one is that it is just barely wide enough that way, you know, to carve the whole thing out of one piece. And I don't want to, you know, add a piece to do this, you know, for the thickness. So really, it's not quite big enough for what I need, but I think it's strong enough. I mean, it is obviously quite a different colour to the rest of the wood, but so is that with the veneer on. So I'm not sure. I've got two options. They're not great options, but they're okay. Alternatively, I might wait and see if I can find a much better piece of wood to do this job. I know I don't actually have any that I can use to do it at the moment. I might be able to find something. I don't know yet. But if not, I might have to go and, you know, buy some or find some somewhere. But the bottom line is, this project is halted. You know, I've spent a lot of time rebuilding this, and I was pretty pissed off when that happened. But like I said, I was kind of expecting it. I thought it might happen, and it has. I'm not sure what wood these instruments are traditionally made from, but whatever it is, I probably won't be able to get hold of it cheaply anyway. So I'm going to, you know, put this project on hold for now. I'm not going to build a new headstock for this right now. I'm a little bit sick of this job, to be honest. So I'm going to put it on the back burner for now. I've got other projects I need to get on with. It is disappointing. This is one of my instruments for sale, so it's got to be done, and it's got to be done right. You know, I'm not just going to patch this up and think, yeah, that'll be good enough, because it's not. So, like I said, I've got these two pieces of wood which are not ideal, but they might be okay. But I'm going to leave that on hold for now. I'm going to see if I can find a better piece of wood. I'm going to, you know, do my best to see what I can find. There is a place just up the road from my shop here that sells, you know, second-hand bits of wood and furniture and all sorts of things. So I might go and take a look in there and see if they've got anything suitable. Just a, you know, off-cut piece of wood. Actually, there are 2 or 3 places around here that sell wood and things. The other one, which is literally across the road from the mall here, they've got a fairly good selection, but they're just too expensive for what it is. You know, they charge ridiculous amounts of money for ordinary pieces of wood. But like I said, there is a place down the road that sells second-hand stuff. I might see if I can have a rummage around there and see if there's something suitable. If not, you know, I've got these as a backup, but I would rather try and find something better. There's not really any rush to get this job done, although, as I said, it is one of my sale instruments, so ideally it does need to be done, and sooner rather than later. But, you know, there's no point rushing it. I tried to do the repair, and I've tried to do it twice. This is the second time, and it just isn't working. You know, it needs to be like original, carved out of one single piece of wood, and that way it will be much stronger than, you know, putting repair pieces in. I mean, normally that would work, but because, you know, this is so narrow, so thin, it was always going to be borderline. And I, like I said, I did think that that might happen. So it is going to be a new headstock, a completely rebuilt new headstock for this instrument, but that's not going to be yet. And honestly, I'm not sure whether or not I will record it. I probably should, really, although it's going to be kind of the same as the one I made originally, which I, you know, I already have the videos on, the video series of making or building Japanese sanshin and shamisen from scratch. So, you know, all of that will be in those videos, you know, about making the headstock. So do I necessarily need to record that again? Not really, but maybe I will, maybe I won't. Why don't you leave some comment, leave me some ideas in the comments. When I rebuild the new headstock for this, should I record it or not? You tell me, the viewers. Do you want to see that? I mean, like I said, if you did, you could go back to the original videos of building these instruments, although I can't remember how much detail I did show of that. So let me know in the comments whether or not you want me to record making the new headstock for this instrument, but it's going to be a little bit in the future. It's not going to be just yet. So yeah, a little bit disappointing, especially after all the work I put into this, but you know, like I said, there's no point repairing that. It's only going to happen again, and these sides are even thinner, so it's only going to happen again. I've got to completely make a new one. So, like I said, it's a little bit disappointing, but it's one of those things that happens, and like I keep saying, I was half expecting it. So, yeah, for now, that's sort of the end of this project, or certainly it's on hold anyway. And I've got some other projects in mind that will be coming soon. But this is one thing I do keep saying: I'm not taking any time to practice, you know, playing any of my instruments. I'm building so many of them, and then they get stuck in the corner and I don't play them. So I want to try and take some time for that as well. You know, I've got all of my various ukuleles and banjoleles, my electric bass, my electric guitar, banjos. Oh, it's just, there's so many instruments I've built, rebuilt, refurbished, or whatever, and not had the chance to you know, play any of them. Just kind of the whole point, really. Anyway, enough waffling from me. That's been almost 20 minutes of waffling. So yeah, it's disappointing about what's happened here, but like I said, not unexpected, and it really, you know, brings me to the fact that this is what I should have done right from the start. I should have just, you know, once that happened the first time, when it all started to break away here, I should have just, and I did think then, should I make a new headstock? And I thought, no, I can repair that. But that's what I should have done right from the start. Just built a new one right from scratch, start all over again. And that's what I'm having to do now. So there it is. Okay, so I'm not sure when that's going to be happening, but like I said, leave your comments down below whether or not you want me to film that, because it's quite a long job actually. And incidentally, making the headstock itself, although it's very time consuming, it's not really difficult. The most difficult part of this is going to be removing this, you know, along this joint and attaching the new one. I mean, actually removing this is going to be a lot easier. If necessary, I could literally just saw it off and maybe even put more of an angle that way for when the new one goes on, so it's got a bit more, you know, gluing surface. So that's what I might do to take this off. Literally just saw it off straight along there with a bit more angle, just cut it off. But putting the new one on is going to be quite challenging, because this is very narrow, especially this way. So I mean, what I will do is I'll literally just you know, glue the piece on like that before I do any of the shaping, because if I do that first and then have to try and line this up exactly this way and this way, that's going to be tricky. So what I will do is literally just glue a block of wood onto here before I do all of the shaping. I mean, you know, doing the shaping, getting from this to this, although very time consuming, it's not what I would call difficult. It just takes a long time, and it's, you know, so whether or not you want me to record it is entirely up to you. It is quite a long process, and like I said, joining the new one on here is perhaps the trickiest part, because that's the part I have to get absolutely perfect. Has to be very, very strong. Okay, so let me know. In the meantime, please look after yourselves, look after each other. We will see you soon. Peace out.